Hello, all. I hope you're all doing well. We are continuing with our weekly portion review, and this week we have a joint portion, which is Tazria-Metzora. Tazria comes from the word seed. Metzora is one who was diseased, but it's known as biblical leprosy. And both of these portions really focus on the ideas of ritual impurity. And there's much to be said about this topic, but I want to dive into the source of this topic. Now, the Torah really presents tsarat, right, biblical leprosy, not just as a skin disease, but it's also a spiritual affliction. It's more of like a physical sign of inner moral corruption. Now, amazingly, Jewish sages or tradition identifies Egypt as the origin of this affliction among the nations. In this sense, Egypt is like the womb of tsarat, of leprosy. Now, throughout history, civilizations really have aligned themselves with different aspects of the human soul. Some, like Israel, have been guided by the nefesh hachaya, the living soul, and they're seeking transcendence. Others, like Egypt historically, were driven by the instinctual and cunning side of human nature, right? Which is really symbolized by the serpent, the nachash. Now, we could even see this contrast in the words of the prophet, right? Balaam the prophet comes and says, Kilon nachash b'Yaakov, right? There's no serpent in Jacob. This is in Numbers. And Jeremiah describes Egypt's voice as kenachash ilech, like a serpent, it slithers. This is in Jeremiah, of course. Now, Egypt really revered the serpent, and it placed it on the Pharaoh's forehead, right, on the crown. And this is actually, as we spoke about in the past, the same place where Israel binds its tefillin, its phylacteries, really symbolizing the submission to the divine morality. Now, according to the Midrash, the serpent who caused the sin in Eden was actually afflicted with tsarat. We'll get back to that. And we were taught that his scales are the sign of his impurity, or this symbolic impurity. Now, Egypt, as a spiritual descendant of the serpent, is the source of tsarat, according to that idea. And in this context, the claim by I believe he was a Roman historian, Manteau, that Israel was a sect of lepers that really was expelled from Egypt, it has a certain kernel of truth to it. Israel did leave Egypt bearing this spiritual affliction, but they only did it in order to be healed. Now, to understand this fully, we need to actually return, like I said, back to the Garden of Eden. The Midrash, like I said, teaches that the serpent was afflicted after causing Adam and Eve to sin. And our sages, one of them being Onkelos, one of the commentaries translates "V'hanachashaya arum." The serpent was actually cunning. Arum means armumi, cunning. As Hakim, he was wise. The serpent then really symbolizes a dimension of the human psyche, right? Natural intelligence, instinctual wisdom, the drive to manipulate and survive. This part of the man we call in Hebrew the sechel hativi, the natural intellect, right? It's not evil in itself. It can develop talents and it can innovate. It can also solve a lot of problems. But when it functions without a higher moral guidance, it actually becomes more dangerous. And it's really the root of spiritual impurity. So the serpent really represents this imbalance: wisdom without any ethics, strategy without any compassion. Now, in contrast, the nefesh hachaya, the living soul, reaches beyond nature, right? It seeks morality, connection, transcendence. The dialogue between the serpent and the soul in Eden is actually the internal conversation within all human beings, right? Adam's sin was that he identified only with one of these aspects, with the natural one, with the instinctual self, and he ignored his higher moral calling. And a beautiful insight of this is found actually in the numerical difference between the word nachash, serpent, and nefesh, soul, which is 72, which is the gematria, or like I said, the numerical equivalency of chesed, kindness, or grace. And chesed is really what bridges the instinct and the spirituality. This is what's missing. This is the element that was missing that transforms raw intelligence into actual moral greatness. And when Israel left Egypt, they weren't just escaping slavery. They were actually leaving behind the spiritual serpent, the cultural cunning without consciousness properly. And the journey through the wilderness, right, in Exodus, and the laws of tzarat, of leprosy in Leviticus, actually became a spiritual therapy, right? It's a process of purification, of relearning how to be a human in the divine image, in God's image. So the Metzora, the leper, is temporarily cast out, not really in shame, but for transformation, right? Just as Israel was cast into the wilderness, so too we have to cast out the leper. And the healing of the leprosy, of the tzarat, actually becomes a national metaphor, right? Israel has to confront every day the serpent within. We have to every day confront our exodus and overcome it through a proper moral refinement. And we have to realize how not only is that our mission, but it's really the mission of the whole world for world rectification, and as we could all together transcend. Shabbat Shalom.